Right, we are back. How to draw characters. Yep, Shazam. That's the latest. And you can imagine it's it's April 2019. Wow, I had to think about that. And yes, Shazam film is out, and so there's plenty of inspiration. And so all you young artists out there, simple thing called Google, and you will either know this character if you weren't familiar with him before, and you will certainly will be inundated by the marketing for the film that is currently playing in theaters. So Shazam, I think perhaps I rendered Shazam maybe once or twice in my life. You can ask me how many times I've drawn Spider-Man, and the number is too great to calculate. So as you can see, let me get into this. As you can see, I very, very loosely rendered out the rough shapes and the underlining sort of structure, the foundational shapes in my very loose sketching line. I rendered it in this case in red, just to be different. Sometimes I'll do it in blue, sometimes I'll do it in a lighter gray, sometimes I'll do it in black and then diminish the intensity of the black by reducing the opacity of the layer. I should mention, of course, I am working in Procreate, and that app I love, and I want y'all to love it, like an evangelist for it. Because it is and has become my workflow engine. I do everything in Procreate now. Well, just about everything. I still, fire up the laptop and do some Photoshop from time to time, but all the color on these are in these sketches I've been doing are in Procreate, all within the app, because I am lazy. Now I'm not lazy, but I don't want to bounce around multiple apps. I like to do it all as much as possible in one if I can. And for me, it's Procreate. So I'm going through the inking process here. There's nothing new to report. It is literally, I got the platform in place there with that red line, sketchy line, and I'm just sort of applying a series of thicks and thins and denser lines. That area where his chest meets his shoulder, meets his arm. There's a denser shadow in there. Obviously his hair, I filled it in as black, and used the eraser. That's a new little wrinkle. I used the eraser tool in Procreate to sort of pull out those highlights in his hair. And I think it's a great effect. It's a simpler effect than me having to render and leaving out that area, allowing the paper to be the area of highlight. It's one way to go. I kind of feather in that manner. I do if I'm drawing on paper. So don't fear the eraser. Actually, the eraser is absolutely your friend, and I know a lot of folks who do coloring, digital coloring. It's kind of a toggle between the eraser and the brush, and it's the same process here. As I create a new layer, and I fill the entire shape with a solid color, and then on another layer on top of it, I create a clipping mask. Very simple to do in Procreate. So this document, as it stands right now, is 4 layers. Okay, it's the flat art layer. It is the line art layer, the black line art. Underneath that is that loose sketch, that sort of red pencil sketch underneath that. And on top of all of them is this clipping mask layer, which is kind of allowing the color to stay within that silhouetted shape. And so that's what's allowing me to make these flats as they are, and then not going beyond the outer. You notice it's not going into the gray. It cannot, because it's within the clipping mask, and it makes it very easy to quickly flat color these drawings when you do so. And oftentimes after this, I will apply a new clipping mask layer on top of that flat layer, and then start doing my shadowing and my highlighting on that clipping mask, because that will also be contained within that contain the color. It will not allow it to go into the gray. So those who like to color in the coloring book and they color outside the lines, that was me, but now I'm trying desperately to stay within the lines. And as you can see, so now there are 5 layers. On the 5th, I'm applying these highlights and shadows. Oftentimes you can create a 6th layer to do highlights, keep the highlights on its own layer and the shadows on any other. But I wanted this just to be kind of a quick color study. And so one less layer really isn't going to shave that much time off, but for me, I just like to have them all in the same layer and not have to worry about it. And so just applying the highlights, finishing touches, as it were. And when I get to this stage, for me, this is the most fun part of. Well, no, the most fun is probably the initial sort of loose sketch stage before the inks, and then but secondarily to that is the highlighting. I feel like that's the point where it's like, all right, I've cemented it. All right, so pulling back, I like oftentimes this is just a stylistic thing to do sort of an outer outline. I don't remember where I first saw that. It's probably in the 1980s. So some artists do that. So zooming in, finishing touches on that outer outline, and it's kind of like I add a little extra scratchiness to it, some sketchiness, as you can see throughout the entire piece. I think it gives it energy, and I love energy in every single thing I do, particularly with the drawings. Decidedly more energy than my low energy commentary. Threw in some very pale blues to create shadow on the whiteness of the cape. Some additional little hits there on the gold, and that's that. Shazam! Enjoy the movie. Hopefully enjoy my sketches. Keep on subscribing. sketchyGOichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Peace.